The sun was setting behind the tall pine trees, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Tom wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at his work. He had been cutting wood all day in the thick forest of Washington State. His arms were tired, his back ached, but he felt satisfied. Just one more hour and he would head back to his truck. The forest was quiet now. Most birds had stopped singing. Only the sound of wind moving through the trees remained. Tom packed his tools slowly, enjoying the peace. He loved this part of his job, being alone in nature, away from the noise of the city. He had been a lumberjack for 20 years now, and he still found comfort in these quiet moments. But then he heard something that made him stop. A sound that didn't belong in the forest. It was faint at first, almost lost in the wind. Tom stood still and listened carefully. There it was again, crying. The sound of children crying. His heart started beating faster. Children? Out here? This was deep forest, miles away from any town or village. No hiking trails came this far. Tom grabbed his flashlight and started walking toward the sound. The crying grew louder as he moved through the thick bushes and fallen branches. Then he saw them. Two small figures huddled together under a massive fallen cedar tree. They were so tiny, so fragile looking. As Tom got closer, his flashlight showed two children, twins by the look of them. They couldn't be more than 6 or 7 years old. Their dark hair was tangled with leaves and twigs. Their clothes were torn in several places. Dirt covered their faces, mixed with tears that kept flowing down their cheeks. The moment the children saw Tom, they started speaking rapidly. But Tom couldn't understand them. They were speaking in a language he didn't know, though he caught a few English words mixed in. The little girl pointed desperately in one direction, then put her hands together like she was begging. The boy did the same, his eyes wide with fear and hope. Tom knelt down slowly, not wanting to scare them more. He could see they were shivering. The temperature was dropping fast as night approached. In these mountains, it could get very cold once the sun went down. The children's thin jackets wouldn't keep them warm for long. "It's okay," Tom said softly, keeping his voice calm. "I'm here to help. Can you tell me what happened?" The girl tried to speak in English. Her words came out broken and mixed with her native language. Grandmother, she fall down, not wake. Not wake up." She made a gesture of someone lying on the ground. "We walk, long time. Lost cold." Tom's stomach tightened. Their grandmother was somewhere out there, and from what the girl was saying, she might be hurt or worse. He looked around. Darkness was coming fast. The forest at night was dangerous, especially for someone who didn't know it well. Even he, with all his experience, didn't like moving through these woods after dark. He checked his phone. No signal, of course not. They were too deep in the forest. His truck was at least 2 miles away, parked at the old logging road. The nearest town was another 30 miles beyond that, and the Native American reservation, where these children probably came from, was on the other side of the mountain range. Tom looked at the twins again. They were in bad shape. The boy's lips had a slight blue tint, early signs of hypothermia. Their legs were covered in scratches and small cuts. They had been walking for hours, maybe since morning. They looked exhausted, like they might collapse any moment. He had to make a decision fast. Every minute counted. The temperature was dropping, and somewhere out there an old woman might be dying. Tom's mind raced through the options. He could try to carry both children to his truck, but 2 miles through rough terrain in the dark with 2 kids would take hours. They might not make it. He could leave them here and run for help. But what if something happened while he was gone? Wild animals, the cold, or simple fear might finish what exhaustion had started. Then there was the grandmother. The children kept pointing in one direction, deeper into the forest. Away from his truck. Away from easy rescue. If she was really out there, hurt and alone, she wouldn't survive the night either. Tom made his choice. It wasn't what anyone would expect. Instead of trying to get the children out immediately, he decided to stay. Right there, in the middle of the forest, with night falling and the temperature dropping. "Okay, listen to me," he said to the children, speaking slowly and using hand gestures. "We're going to stay here tonight. I'm going to keep you safe and warm. Tomorrow, when there's light, we'll find your grandmother. Do you understand?" The girl translated quickly to her brother. They both looked confused. The boy said something in their language, and the girl turned to Tom. "Go home?" she asked, pointing toward where they thought home was. "Tomorrow," Tom said firmly. "Tonight we stay here. It's safer." He could see the children didn't understand his decision, but they were too tired to argue. Tom immediately went to work. He had done wilderness survival training years ago, and though he never thought he'd need it like this, the knowledge came flooding back. First, shelter. He found a spot near the fallen cedar tree that would protect them from wind. Using branches and his tarp from his work bag, he created a simple lean-to shelter. It wasn't fancy, but it would keep the rain off if any came, and it would trap their body heat. Next, fire. This was crucial. Tom gathered dry wood quickly, working fast as the last light faded. He always carried waterproof matches and fire starter in his kit. Within 10 minutes, he had a good fire going. The flames crackled and danced, pushing back the darkness and cold. The children watched him work with wide eyes. Tom took off his thick flannel shirt, leaving just his thermal underwear top. He wrapped the shirt around both children, pulling them close to the fire. From his pack, he pulled out his emergency blanket, that thin silver material that reflected heat. He wrapped this around them too. "Better?" he asked. For the first time, the little girl smiled slightly. "Warm," she said. Tom opened his thermos. He always brought coffee for long work days, but today he had soup. Hot vegetable soup his neighbor had given him that morning. He poured it into the thermos cup and handed it to the children. "Drink, slowly. Share with your brother." They drank eagerly, passing the cup back and forth. Color started returning to their faces. The boy stopped shivering so much. Tom watched them carefully, looking for any signs of serious injury or sickness. Apart from exhaustion, cold, and fear, they seemed physically okay. As full darkness settled over the forest, Tom added more wood to the fire. The children huddled together, finally starting to relax a little. The girl looked up at Tom with those big dark eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Tom nodded. "What are your names?" "I am Lily," the girl said. "He is River. Our grandmother is Winona." "I'm Tom," he replied. "And I promise you, Lily and River, we're going to find your grandmother tomorrow. But tonight you're safe. I won't let anything happen to you." The children leaned against each other, and within minutes exhaustion finally won. They fell asleep by the warm fire, wrapped in Tom's shirt and emergency blanket. Tom sat watching them, feeding the fire throughout the long night. He didn't sleep. He couldn't. These children's lives depended on him now. Somewhere out in the dark forest, their grandmother lay waiting. Tom could only hope she would survive until morning. As the night deepened and the stars came out above the trees, Tom made silent promises. He would find the grandmother. He would get these children home safely, whatever it took. He had no idea that this night would change his life forever, that these two small children appearing out of nowhere in the forest would lead him down a path he never expected. But that story was still waiting to unfold. For now there was only the fire, the sleeping children, and the long wait for dawn. The first light of dawn crept through the trees slowly, turning the dark forest into shades of gray and then soft gold. Tom had stayed awake all night, keeping the fire burning strong. His eyes were heavy with tiredness, but his mind was sharp and alert. He had spent the dark hours planning what to do next. Lily and River woke up as the sun rose higher. They looked confused for a moment, then remembered where they were. The fear came back to their eyes immediately. Lily grabbed her brother's hand and looked at Tom with desperate hope. "Grandmother," she said simply. "We find?" Tom nodded. "Yes, we find her. But first you need to eat something." He had 2 energy bars in his pack and a few pieces of beef jerky. Not much, but better than nothing. He split everything between the children, making sure they ate slowly. They needed strength for what was coming next. As the twins ate, Tom studied the forest around them. He had been thinking all night about the best way to handle this situation. The normal thing would be to take the children and head straight for his truck. Get them to safety first, call for professional help, let trained rescue teams find the grandmother. But Tom knew better. He had worked in these forests for 2 decades. He knew how big and wild they were, how easy it was to get lost, how quickly someone could disappear in the thick trees and rough terrain. If rescue teams came, they would need to know exactly where to look. The children said they had been walking since their grandmother collapsed. That meant they could be anywhere within a huge area. More importantly, if the grandmother was still alive, she might not survive another day. She had already been out there 1 full night, cold, alone, possibly injured. An old woman wouldn't last long in these conditions. Tom made his decision. Instead of going to his truck, he would follow the children back to their grandmother. It was risky. It meant going deeper into the forest, away from safety. It meant trusting two scared, exhausted children to remember the way. But it was the right choice. He could feel it. "Lily," Tom said, getting the girl's attention, "can you take me to where your grandmother is? Can you remember the way?" Lily's eyes widened. She spoke quickly to River in their language. The boy nodded eagerly and pointed in a direction. Lily turned back to Tom. "Yes, we remember. We walked that way many times with grandmother, but—" She paused, looking worried. "Very far." "Long walk, that's okay," Tom said gently. "We'll go slow. You just tell me when you recognize something, okay? A tree, a rock, anything that looks familiar." But before they left, Tom needed to prepare. He couldn't carry both children the whole way, and they were still weak from yesterday. He needed to make something to help transport them when they got too tired to walk. Using his axe and rope from his work kit, Tom started building a travois. It was an old method, something he had learned about from a Native American friend years ago. He cut two long, straight poles and tied them together at one end, leaving them apart at the other end like a triangle. Then he stretched fabric from his tarp between the poles, creating a kind of stretcher that could be dragged along the ground. The children watched with fascination as Tom worked. "My grandfather make this," Lily said quietly. "For hunting. Pull big deer." "Exactly," Tom said, pleased that she recognized it. "When you get too tired to walk, you can ride on this. I'll pull you." With everything ready, they started walking. Tom let the children lead, but he kept careful track of their direction. He marked trees as they went, breaking small branches in a pattern that he could follow back if needed. The forest was thick here, and the ground was rough with roots and rocks. Lily and River walked slowly at first, still tired from yesterday. But as the sun rose higher and warmed them, they moved with more energy. Every few minutes, one of them would point at something. "That tree. We passed that tree." "Or that rock. Big rock, we saw it." Tom's respect for these children grew with each step. Despite everything they had been through, they were brave. They didn't complain about being tired or hungry or scared. They just kept walking, determined to reach their grandmother. After about 2 hours of walking, they came to a small stream. River got excited and ran to it, pointing. He spoke rapidly in his language. Lily translated. "We drink water here yesterday. Before grandmother fall. We close now." "Very close." Tom's heart beat faster. They were getting near. He filled his water bottle from the stream and made the children drink. Then they continued, moving faster now. The forest changed as they walked. The trees grew taller, older. The undergrowth became thicker. Tom realized they were entering an area he had never worked in. It was deeper wilderness, probably protected tribal land. No wonder the children had gotten lost trying to walk out of here. Then Lily stopped suddenly. Her face went pale. "There," she whispered, pointing ahead. "The big tree that fell. Grandmother on other side." Tom's pulse quickened. He told the children to stay close to him and moved forward carefully. They went around a massive fallen tree, its roots torn up from the ground. And there in a small clearing beyond it, he saw her. An old woman lay on the ground, so still she could have been dead. She was on her side, curled up slightly, wearing traditional Native American clothing with beautiful beaded patterns. Her long gray hair spread around her head. Next to her was a basket, tipped over with mushrooms scattered around it. The children ran forward, crying. "Grandmother! Grandmother!" They knelt beside her, touching her arms, her face. Tom moved quickly. He knelt down and checked for a pulse. For a terrible moment, he couldn't find one and his heart sank. Then there it was. Weak, slow, but definitely there. "She was alive." "She's alive," Tom said, and the relief on the children's faces was powerful to see. But she was in bad condition. Her skin was cold and had a bluish tint. Her breathing was shallow and irregular. Tom suspected she had suffered a stroke or heart attack. She needed a hospital immediately. Here's where Tom made another choice that no one would expect. Most people would panic now, try to carry the old woman out, rush, and possibly make things worse. But Tom stayed calm. He had wilderness first aid training, and he remembered the most important rule. Sometimes moving someone too quickly could kill them. He couldn't carry an unconscious woman and 2 children through miles of rough forest. He couldn't leave her here while he went for help, because she might die before he got back. and he still had no phone signal to call for emergency services. So Tom decided to do something different. He would bring help here to her. He would use old methods that people didn't use anymore in the age of cell phones and GPS. Methods that the tribal people would recognize and respond to. First, he made the grandmother comfortable. He carefully straightened her position, checked her breathing again, and covered her with his emergency blanket to warm her slowly. He elevated her feet slightly using his backpack. Then he built a shelter over her using branches in his tarp to protect her from sun and wind. Next came the signal. Tom gathered green branches still full of moisture and leaves. He built up his fire and then placed these green branches on top. Immediately, thick white smoke began rising into the sky. Lots of smoke. The kind of smoke that could be seen for miles. "What you doing?" Lily asked, watching with confused eyes. "I'm calling for help," Tom explained. "The smoke signal, people will see it. Your people will see it. They'll know someone needs help and they'll come." He kept feeding green branches into the fire, creating a steady column of smoke that rose high above the trees. Then he made the signal pattern specific. 3 puffs of smoke. A pause. 3 more puffs. Another pause. Then repeat. This was an old distress signal, something that tribal rangers and experienced woodsmen would recognize immediately. The children sat with their grandmother, holding her hands, speaking to her softly in their language. Tom kept the smoke signal going, adding branches every few minutes. He also started preparing for the possibility that help might not come. He gathered more firewood, refilled his water bottle, and found some edible plants nearby that he knew were safe. Hours passed. The sun moved across the sky. Tom started to worry. Had anyone seen his signal? Would anyone come? These forests were huge and empty. Maybe no one was close enough to see the smoke. But then River jumped up, pointing. "Listen," he said. Tom listened carefully. There, faint but getting louder, was the sound of an engine, an ATV engine, then another, and another. Help was coming. Within minutes, 3 ATVs burst into the clearing. Tribal rangers wearing official gear jumped off quickly. One of them, an older man with long braided hair, went straight to the grandmother. The other 2 looked at Tom with suspicion. "Who are you?" one demanded. "What happened here?" Before Tom could answer, Lily ran forward. She spoke rapidly in her native language, gesturing to Tom, to her grandmother, to the forest around them. The ranger's suspicious expression changed to surprise, then to respect. The older ranger, who was checking the grandmother, looked up at Tom. "You kept her alive. And you used the old signals. Where did you learn this?" "I've worked these forests a long time," Tom said simply. "And I had a good teacher once." The rangers moved into action. They had medical supplies and a radio. Within minutes, they had called for a medical helicopter. The grandmother was carefully loaded onto a stretcher. A female ranger checked over the twins, making sure they were okay. 3 days after the rescue, Tom found himself driving toward the reservation hospital. He hadn't planned a visit. He figured the family would want privacy, and besides, he had work to get back to. But Joseph, the tribal ranger, had called him that morning with unexpected news. The grandmother wanted to see him. The reservation was different from what Tom had imagined. It wasn't just a collection of old buildings like in movies. There were modern homes, a school, a community center, and the hospital, which looked new and well-equipped. But there were also traditional elements everywhere. Murals showing tribal history on walls, totem poles in the central square. The blend of old and new was striking. Joseph met Tom at the hospital entrance. "She's been asking for you since she woke up yesterday," he explained as they walked through the clean hallways. "Lily and River told her everything. About how you stayed with them in the forest, how you found her, how you used the smoke signals." "How is she?" Tom asked. "Better than we expected," Joseph said. "She had a mild stroke, but the doctors say she'll recover. The fact that you kept her warm and stable probably saved her life. If she had been exposed to the cold much longer..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. They stopped outside a hospital room. Through the window, Tom could see the old woman sitting up in bed, with Lily and River on either side. An IV line ran to her arm and monitors beeped softly nearby, but her eyes were alert and she was talking to the children. When Tom entered, all 3 looked up. The twins immediately jumped down and ran to him. They hugged him like he was family, both talking at once in their excitement. "Grandmother is better," Lily said. "She wake up. She remember us." The old woman watched this with calm, intelligent eyes. When the children stepped back, She gestured for Tom to come closer. Joseph stayed by the door, giving them space. Tom approached the bed and wasn't sure what to do. Should he shake her hand? Bow? But the grandmother simply looked at him for a long moment, studying his face carefully. Then she spoke in English, her voice soft but clear. "You are the lumberjack who saved my grandchildren." "Yes, ma'am," Tom said. "I'm just glad I found them when I did." "Sit," she commanded gently, pointing to a chair. "I am Winona, and I owe you a debt that cannot be repaid with simple thanks." Tom sat, feeling awkward. "There's no debt. Anyone would have done the same." "No," Winona said firmly. "Most would not. Most would have panicked, made mistakes. You kept calm. You understood what the forest requires. You used the old ways." She paused, studying him again. "Who taught you?" Tom thought back. "I had a friend years ago when I first started working in the forests, an old man named Henry who worked as a guide. He was part Native American, though I never knew which tribe.
He taught me things.
Respect for the land, old survival methods, how to read the forest." Winona nodded slowly, as if this explained something. "The forest speaks to those who listen." "You listened. That is rare in your people now." "Your people?" Tom echoed. "White people," Winona said simply, without any anger or judgment. "Your world has forgotten the old knowledge. Everything is phones and GPS and machines. When the machines fail, people are lost." Tom couldn't argue with that. He had seen it happen. Hikers completely helpless without their devices. People who couldn't read the sun or stars for direction. Who didn't know which plants were safe to eat. Lily climbed onto the bed next to her grandmother. "Tell him, grandmother," she said. "Tell him what you told us." Winona was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, sadder. "The doctors say I had a stroke. A small one, but it was a warning. They did tests. Found more problems, cancer, in my blood." She said the words calmly, like she was discussing the weather. Tom felt his stomach drop. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," Winona said. "I am 78 years old. I have lived a full life. My husband died 10 years ago. My daughter and her husband, these children's parents, died 2 years ago in a car accident. I am the last of my family except for these two precious ones." She looked at the twins with such love that Tom felt his throat tighten. River, not understanding all the English, seemed to sense the sadness. He leaned against his grandmother. "The day you found the children," Winona continued, "we were on the old tribal gathering grounds, sacred places where our people have gone for hundreds of years. I was teaching them about the medicine plants. How to identify them, how to harvest them respectfully, how to give thanks to the earth for its gifts." "That's important knowledge," Tom said. "Yes," Winona agreed, "but it is knowledge that is dying. The young people of our tribe, they go to modern schools. They learn computers and math and science. All good things. But they don't learn the forest anymore. They don't know the plants. They can't track animals. They can't read the signs that the earth gives us." She paused, breathing a bit heavily. Lily quickly poured water into a cup and helped her grandmother drink. After a moment, Winona continued. "I wanted to teach my grandchildren. Before I die, I want them to know who they are, where they come from, the wisdom of their ancestors. But," she gestured to the hospital room, to the machines around her, "time is running out." Tom didn't know what to say. The sadness in the room was heavy. These two children had already lost their parents. Now they were losing their grandmother too. And they were so young. "Do they have other family?" Tom asked quietly. "Aunts, uncles, cousins?" Winona shook her head. "My husband and I, we were only children. Our daughter was our only child. Her husband's family lives far away in Alaska, and we don't know them well. When I die, the children will go into the tribal foster system. They will be cared for, but—" She didn't finish, but Tom understood. It wouldn't be the same as family. Joseph spoke from the doorway. "The tribal council is already making arrangements. Lily and River will stay with community members while Winona is in the hospital. After that, we'll see." Tom looked at the twins. They were playing with the hospital bed controls now, raising it up and down, trying to lighten the mood. But he could see the worry in their eyes. They understood more than the adults thought they did. Winona watched Tom carefully. "Why did you come today?" she asked. Tom was surprised by the question. "Joseph called me, said you wanted to see me. But you didn't have to come," Winona pointed out. "You could have made an excuse. Said you were busy with work." Most people would have. Tom thought about it. Why had he come? I wanted to know if everyone was okay, he said finally. I spent a whole night with these kids. You can't do that and then just walk away without knowing how the story ends. Winona smiled for the first time. It transformed her face, making her look younger. You have a good heart, Tom. The forest knew this. That's why it led my grandchildren to you. Tom didn't quite know how to respond to that. He wasn't a spiritual person, not really. But there was something about the way Winona said it with such certainty that made him wonder. I have a request, Winona said suddenly. Her voice became stronger, more formal. It is unusual and you may refuse. But I must ask. Okay, Tom said cautiously. I have maybe 6 months, Winona said. Perhaps a year if I am lucky. The children need to learn our ways, but I am too weak now to take them into the forest. The stroke, the cancer, the treatments that will come. I cannot teach them what they need to know. She paused, and Tom had a strange feeling he knew what was coming next. You know the forest, Winona continued. You respect it. You understand survival. I want to hire you to teach my grandchildren. Not the tribal ways, I will teach them that here, in our home, but the practical skills. How to survive. How to read the land. How to be strong in the wilderness. Tom was shocked. But I'm not a teacher. I'm just a lumberjack. You are more than that, Winona said firmly. You proved it in the forest. And the children already trust you. Look, she pointed. Lily had come over and was holding Tom's hand, not saying anything, just holding it. River was showing Tom a drawing he had made, of trees and a fire and 3 stick figures. I don't know if I can, Tom said honestly. I have a job. Bills to pay. I can't just... I will pay you, Winona interrupted. I have money saved. My husband's pension, life insurance, our savings. I don't need it anymore. It was meant for the children's education. But this is education. The most important kind. Tom's mind was racing. Take time off work to teach 2 Native American children survival skills? It sounded crazy. He didn't know anything about kids. He lived alone, always had. His life was simple, predictable, solitary. This would turn everything upside down. But he looked at Lily and River. These brave little kids who had walked for hours through the forest, scared and lost, looking for help for their grandmother, who had slept by a fire under the stars, trusting a stranger to keep them safe, who were about to lose the last person in the world who truly loved them. Let me think about it, Tom said finally. This is a big decision. Of course, Winona said. But don't think too long. We don't have time for long thinking. The forest doesn't wait. Life doesn't wait. As Tom left the hospital that day, his mind was spinning. Joseph walked him to his truck. She means it, you know, the ranger said. About hiring you. The tribal council discussed it. They're willing to support the idea. You'd have full access to the reservation, to the tribal lands. It's unusual, but these are unusual circumstances. I need time to process this, Tom said. 2 weeks had passed since Tom's visit to the hospital. He had called Joseph twice to check on Winona and the twins, but he hadn't visited again. He couldn't. Because every time he thought about going, he felt pulled in 2 directions. Part of him wanted to help, wanted to be there for those kids. But another part was scared. Scared of getting attached. Scared of responsibility. Scared of failing them. Tom had always lived alone. His parents died when he was in his 20s. He had never married, never had kids. His life revolved around work, a few friends, and the quiet peace of the forest. Taking on the responsibility of teaching 2 children? It felt too big, too overwhelming. But then Joseph called again on a Thursday evening. Tom, you need to come to the reservation tomorrow, the ranger said. His voice was serious, urgent. What's wrong? Is Winona okay? She's stable, but she needs to talk to you. It's important. Please just come. The next day, Tom found himself driving to the reservation again. But this time, instead of the hospital, Joseph directed him to a house on the edge of the reservation. It was a small, traditional-style home with beautiful carvings on the wooden posts and colorful paintings on the door. Winona came home from the hospital yesterday, Joseph explained as they walked to the door. She wanted to be in her own place. The tribal council is taking turns staying with her and the kids. Inside, the house was warm and filled with the smell of sage and cedar. Traditional blankets hung on the walls. Photos of family members through the generations covered every surface. And there, sitting in a comfortable chair by the window, was Winona. She looked thinner than before, more fragile, but her eyes were still sharp and aware. Lily and River were doing homework at a table. When they saw Tom, they both jumped up and ran over, talking excitedly. In the 2 weeks since he'd last seen them, they looked healthier. The cuts and scratches had healed. They had color in their cheeks, but there was still sadness in their eyes. "Go play outside for a bit," Winona told the children gently. "I need to talk to Tom." The twins obeyed, but not before Lily hugged Tom's waist and River showed him his math homework with pride. "I get all right," the boy said in his broken English. When the children were gone, Winona gestured for Tom to sit. An old woman sat in the corner working on a beading project. Winona introduced her as Helen, an elder from the tribal council. "Thank you for coming," Winona said. "I know you have been avoiding us." Tom felt embarrassed. "I've been thinking about your offer." "And?" Winona asked directly. "I don't know if I'm the right person for this," Tom admitted. "Teaching kids? I don't know anything about that. And I'd have to take time off work. Change my whole life around." "Yes," Winona agreed. "You would. I am asking you to give up your comfort for my grandchildren." "It is not a small thing," Helen spoke up from the corner. "But it is a worthy thing. The most worthy thing there is. Passing knowledge to the next generation." Winona leaned forward. "Tom, I need to be honest with you. The doctors say I have less time than they first thought. Maybe 4 months. Maybe 5. The cancer is aggressive." Tom's chest tightened. 4 months. That was nothing. "I want to use every day I have left to teach Lily and River about our culture," Winona continued. "Our language, which they are starting to forget. Our ceremonies. Our stories. The meaning behind the dances and the songs, but I cannot take them into the forest anymore. My body won't allow it, and that knowledge, the practical survival skills, is just as important as the spiritual teachings." "Why me, though?" Tom asked. "There must be people in the tribe who could teach them." Helen answered this. "There are. We have skilled hunters and trackers, but they are busy with their own families, their own work. And none of them were there in the forest that night. None of them earned the children's trust the way you did. Lily and River talk about you constantly. To them, you are the man who saved their lives. They will learn from you in a way they wouldn't learn from anyone else." Winona nodded. "Children remember who shows up for them in their darkest moments. You were there when they needed someone most. That creates a bond." Tom felt the weight of their words. He looked around the room at the photos of family members who were gone, at the traditional items that represented a culture trying to survive, at the homework on the table where 2 children were trying to grow up without parents. "What exactly would you want me to teach them?" he asked quietly. Winona's face brightened a bit. "Everything you know. How to build a shelter, how to start a fire without matches, how to find water, which plants are safe to eat, how to track animals, how to read weather signs, how to navigate without technology, all the skills that kept humans alive for thousands of years before we had modern conveniences." "That's a lot to learn in 4 months," Tom said. "Then we start immediately," Winona replied. 3 times a week. You come here, pick up the children after school, take them into the forest, teach them for a few hours, bring them home before dark, on weekends longer trips, overnight camping maybe, if you're comfortable with that. Tom's mind raced through the logistics. He would need to talk to his boss, reduce his work hours. He'd lose income, even with whatever Winona paid him. His simple, predictable life would become complicated. There would be responsibility, commitment, emotional involvement. "I can see you calculating," Helen said with a gentle smile, "weighing the costs. But some things cannot be measured that way." "What happens after?" Tom asked. "After Winona? I mean, when the children go into foster care or wherever they end up, won't they just lose everything they learned?" Winona and Helen exchanged a long look. Something passed between them, some unspoken communication. Finally, Winona spoke. "That brings me to my second request, the one that is even more unusual than the first." Tom waited, his heart beating faster. "If something happens to me before the teaching is complete, I want you to continue, not just for a few more weeks, but ongoing. I want to put it in my will that you are hired as the children's outdoor education teacher for as long as they need it. The money will be there. My estate will pay you. But if they're in foster care, the tribal council has agreed to make special arrangements." Helen interrupted. "Whoever fosters Lily and River will understand that they have this commitment, that they will spend time with you, learning these skills. It's unusual, yes, but we can make it work if you agree." Tom felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff. One step forward and his whole life would change. He could say no, walk away. Go back to his quiet existence. No one would blame him. But then he thought about that night in the forest. The way Lily's hand had felt so small in his. The way River had looked at him with those big, trusting eyes. The way both children had fallen asleep by the fire, finally feeling safe after hours of terror. There's something else, Winona said quietly. Something I need to tell you before you decide. Tom looked at her, waiting. When we were on the tribal lands that day, I wasn't just teaching the children about plants. I was performing a ceremony, an old one. I was asking the forest spirits to send someone to help guide these children after I'm gone, to teach them strength and wisdom and courage. She paused, her eyes intense. 2 hours later, the stroke hit me, and my grandchildren, wandering lost and scared through the forest, found you. Of all the people in the world, they found a man who knew the old ways, who had the skills I was praying someone would have, who had the heart to keep them safe. Tom felt goosebumps on his arms. I don't believe in coincidences, Winona continued. I believe the forest answered my prayer. I believe you were meant to find them, and I believe you are meant to be part of their lives. I'm not a spiritual person, Tom said, his voice rough. The forest doesn't care what you believe, Helen said. It knows what it knows. The room was quiet. Outside, Tom could hear Lily and River laughing as they played. Such a sweet, innocent sound. They had lost so much already, and they would lose more soon when Winona died. Tom made his decision. Okay, he said. I'll do it. Winona closed her eyes briefly, relief washing over her face. Thank you. Thank you. But I have conditions, Tom continued. I'm not going to pretend I know how to be some kind of role model or father figure. I'll teach them skills, practical things, but the emotional stuff, the cultural stuff, that's your job and the tribe's job. I'm just the forest teacher. That's all I can promise to be. That's all we're asking, Helen said. And when Winona... Tom struggled with the words. When that time comes, I'll continue the lessons if the tribe really wants me to. But I'm not making any promises beyond that. I don't know what these kids will need from me in the long run. Fair enough, Winona said. She extended her hand and Tom shook it. Her grip was surprisingly strong for someone so ill. When do we start? Tom asked. Tomorrow, Winona said immediately. Saturday. Take them into the forest. Show them the basics. Build on what they already know. They learned some things from me before I got sick. You'll be surprised how much they remember. Tom stood to leave, but Winona called him back. One more thing. Come to dinner tonight here, with the children and me and some of the elders. If you're going to be part of their lives, you need to know our ways too. Not just teach them yours. Tom hesitated, then nodded. What time? The first Saturday morning of teaching arrived with clear skies and cool air. Tom picked up Lily and River at 8 o'clock. They were waiting on the porch, both wearing backpacks that looked too big for their small frames. Their excitement was obvious. They practically bounced to his truck. We ready, River announced proudly. We bring water and snacks like grandmother say. Tom smiled despite his nervousness. Good. Being prepared is the first rule of the forest. They drove to a section of tribal land that Joseph had recommended. It was safe, not too far from civilization, but still wild enough to teach real skills. As they walked into the trees, Tom felt his anxiety fade. This was his world. Here he knew what he was doing. Okay, first lesson, Tom said, stopping in a small clearing. Anyone can walk into the forest, but smart people know how to find their way back out. We're going to learn about navigation. He spent the next hour teaching them how to mark a trail, how to look for landmarks, how to use the sun to find directions. The children listened with intense focus, asking questions, trying things themselves. Tom was surprised by how quick they were to learn. My grandmother teach us some of this, Lily explained, but we forget when we got scared. When she fall down, everything we know disappear. That's called panic, Tom said, and it happens to everyone. The trick is learning to stay calm even when you're scared. Your brain works better when you're calm. As the weeks went by, Tom settled into a rhythm. 3 times a week after school, weekends for longer lessons. He taught them to build different types of shelters. How to start fires using various methods, which plants were edible and which were poisonous, how to purify water, how to read animal tracks. But something unexpected started happening. Tom began learning too. Winona insisted that after each forest lesson, Tom stay for dinner. During those meals, she taught him about tribal culture, the language, the stories behind their traditions, the spiritual connection their people had with the land. Helen and other elders often joined them, sharing knowledge that went back generations. Tom found himself fascinated. He learned that many of the survival techniques he knew actually came from Native American traditions originally. His friend Henry had been teaching him indigenous wisdom without him fully realizing it. "Your people took much from our people," Helen told him one evening. "Land, resources, dignity. But they also took knowledge and pretended they discovered it themselves. It's good that you acknowledge where these skills come from." Tom felt ashamed even though he personally hadn't done anything wrong. "I'm sorry," he said. "Don't apologize," Winona said. "Learn. Teach the children where this knowledge comes from. Help them be proud of their heritage. That's how you honor us." As the months passed, Tom started picking up basic words and phrases in the tribal language. Lily and River delighted in teaching him, giggling when he mispronounced things. River, who had been very quiet at first, began opening up. He would chatter in a mix of English and his native language, telling Tom about school, about his friends, about his dreams. Lily, always the more serious of the two, started calling Tom Teacher Tom. She kept a notebook where she wrote down everything he taught them, with little drawings to illustrate each lesson. Tom was touched by how seriously she took it all. One day, about 3 months into the teaching, something extraordinary happened. They were in the forest working on tracking skills when River suddenly froze. He pointed silently at the ground. There in the soft earth were deer tracks, very fresh. Without saying a word, River started following them. Tom watched in amazement as the boy moved through the forest like he was born to it, silent, careful, reading the signs. Lily followed her brother, equally quiet and focused. Tom came behind, barely breathing. They tracked the deer for 20 minutes before River stopped and pointed. There, through the trees, was a beautiful buck. The three of them watched it for several minutes before the deer sensed something and bounded away. "Did you see me, Teacher Tom?" River whispered excitedly. "I track like you teach, and like grandmother's grandfather used to do." She'd tell us stories about him. Tom felt an overwhelming sense of pride. These children were connecting their modern learning with their ancestral past. They were building a bridge between two worlds, but not everything was going well. Winona was getting sicker. The cancer treatments were harsh. Some days she could barely get out of bed. The children tried to hide their sadness, but Tom could see it. They were quieter some days, more clingy, scared of what was coming. One evening, Winona called Tom into her bedroom. She looked so small in the big bed, so frail, but her spirit was still fierce. "I need to tell you something," she said. "Something important before my time is up." Tom sat in the chair by her bed, his heart heavy. "I have been watching you with my grandchildren," Winona continued. "You told me at the beginning that you would just be their forest teacher. Nothing more. Do you remember?" "Yes," Tom said. "You were wrong," Winona said gently. "Or maybe you were lying to yourself, because you have become more than that. You have become someone they depend on, someone they trust, someone they love." Tom felt his throat tighten. "Winona, listen," she interrupted. "When I die, the tribal council has arranged for the children to stay with Helen and her husband. They are good people. They will care for Lily and River well. But the children will need more than care. They will need stability. They will need someone who represents continuity in their lives. Someone who doesn't leave." She paused to catch her breath. "I want to ask you something, and you must think carefully before you answer. After I'm gone, will you continue teaching them? Not just for a few more months, but ongoing, for years, until they are grown?" Tom stared at her. "That's a long commitment." "Yes," Winona agreed, "it is. And it will mean being part of their lives in deeper ways than you planned. School events, celebrations, hard times, good times. Being present, being steady, being the adult male figure in their lives because they have none." "I don't know if I can do that," Tom said honestly. "I've never been responsible for kids before." "You are already doing it," Winona pointed out. "Right now. For 3 months you have shown up every time you promised. You have been patient when they struggled, proud when they succeeded. You have shared meals with us, learned our language, respected our ways. You are already part of this family, Tom. I am just asking you to accept it officially." Tom's mind was spinning. Part of him wanted to run. This was too much, too deep, too permanent. But another part of him knew Winona was right. He had gotten attached. He cared about these kids. The thought of just walking away after she died felt wrong. Felt like abandonment. "What exactly are you asking?" Tom said. Winona reached out and took his hand. "I am asking you to be their guardian. Not legally. Helen and her husband will have that. But in spirit. In practice. I want to know that someone who loves them will be watching over them always. Someone who will teach them, guide them, protect them. Someone who will help them grow into strong adults who know both the modern world and the old ways. Tears filled Tom's eyes. Why me? Why not someone from the tribe? Because the forest chose you, Winona said simply. And because my grandchildren chose you. And because, whether you admit it or not, you have chosen them too. I see the way you look at them. Like they matter. Like they are precious. That is not something you can fake. Tom sat silently for a long time. Winona didn't push. She just held his hand and waited. Finally, Tom spoke. Okay, yes, I'll do it. I'll be there for them. For as long as they need me. Winona smiled, tears running down her cheeks. Thank you. You have given me the greatest gift. Peace. I can die knowing my babies will have someone who truly cares. 2 weeks later, Winona passed away peacefully in her sleep. The funeral was huge, with people coming from all over. Tribal members, friends, family members from distant places. Lily and River stood through it all, holding hands, trying to be brave. Tom stood with them. Helen on one side, Tom on the other. And when River finally broke down crying, it was Tom he reached for. Tom who picked him up and held him while his small body shook with grief. Lily leaned against Tom's leg, her tears soaking through his pants. Is grandmother with the spirits now? She asked through her tears. Yes, Tom said, his own voice rough with emotion. She's with your parents. She's at peace. Will she see us from there? River asked. Always, Tom promised. She'll always be watching over you. Always be proud of you. After the funeral, life continued. But it was different now. Tom reduced his logging work to part-time. He spent more time on the reservation, more time with the children. Helen and her husband Robert became like family to him too. They all worked together to give Lily and River stability. Tom taught the children more advanced skills. Overnight camping trips, reading weather patterns, advanced fire-starting techniques. But more than skills, he taught them confidence, showed them they were capable of hard things, encouraged them when they felt sad or scared. And slowly, over months, Tom transformed too. His quiet, solitary life expanded. He attended school plays and parent-teacher conferences. He celebrated the children's birthdays with traditional ceremonies and cake. He learned to braid Lily's hair when she asked. He threw a ball with River for hours until the boy could catch it consistently. A full year had passed since that night in the forest when Tom first found Lily and River. The seasons had turned, bringing changes to the land and to their lives. It was autumn again, with leaves turning gold and red, the air crisp and cool. Tom sat in the tribal council meeting room, feeling out of place. He was the only non-native person there, and he could feel some eyes on him with uncertainty. But Helen had insisted he come, said it was important. The council chairman, an older man named William, spoke first. We have called this meeting to discuss the children, Lily and River. They are doing well in Helen and Robert's care. Their teachers say they are good students. But we have noticed something interesting. He pulled out some papers, report cards, notes from teachers, observations from tribal social workers. The children's confidence has grown remarkably in the past year, William continued. River, who barely spoke after his parents died, now talks freely, gives presentations in class, has friends. Lily, who was anxious and withdrawn, now helps other students. Shows leadership. Their therapist says they are processing their grief in healthy ways. He looked directly at Tom. The therapist attributes much of this progress to you, to the stability you provide, to the outdoor program you run with them. She says you have given them something to look forward to, something to be proud of, a connection to their heritage through nature. Tom shifted uncomfortably. He didn't like being the center of attention. Helen spoke up. The council wants to make your position official. Right now, you're doing this informally, being paid from Winona's estate, but that money will run out eventually. We want to hire you properly as a cultural outdoor educator for the tribe. You would teach not just Lily and River, but other children too. Pass on these skills to the next generation. Tom was stunned. I'm not qualified to be an official teacher. I don't have degrees or certifications. You have something better, an older woman named Ruth said. You have real knowledge. You have respect for our culture, and you have proven yourself over this past year. The children trust you. That matters more than paper qualifications. We would start with a small program, William explained. Weekend workshops for tribal youth. You teach basic survival skills, outdoor ethics, respect for nature. We would pay you a proper salary. You could quit your logging work entirely if you wanted. Tom's mind raced. This was more than he had ever imagined. He had thought he would teach Lily and River for a few years, and that would be it. But this was a career change. A life change. Can I think about it? Tom asked. Of course, William said. But don't think too long. We want to start the program this winter. That evening, Tom drove to Helen and Robert's house for his usual dinner with the twins. As he pulled up, he saw both children waiting on the porch as they did every time he visited. The moment they saw his truck, they ran to him. Teacher Tom! Teacher Tom! River shouted. I learned a new plant today in school. Miss Johnson say it called elderberry. You know this plant? I do, Tom said, ruffling the boy's hair. And elderberry makes excellent jam. Maybe we can find some this weekend. Lily, now 8 years old and more reserved, walked up more slowly, but she slipped her hand into Tom's as they walked to the house. These small gestures of affection still surprised him sometimes. He had never expected to become someone children would seek comfort from. During dinner, Tom watched the family dynamics. Helen and Robert treated Lily and River like their own grandchildren. There was love there, genuine care. The children were happy, healthy, thriving, but he also noticed something else. The way they looked at him. The way their faces lit up when he arrived. The way they saved their forest stories specifically for him. After dinner, while the children did homework, Helen pulled Tom aside. The council told you about the teaching position, she said. It wasn't a question. Yes, I'm thinking about it. What's holding you back? Helen asked directly. She had a way of cutting through his uncertainty. It feels too big, Tom admitted. A year ago, I was just a lumberjack. Now I'm supposed to be some kind of cultural educator. What if I mess up? What if I teach something wrong? What if I let everyone down? Helen smiled gently. You know what Winona told me before she died? She said the forest doesn't make mistakes. If it brought you to her grandchildren, there was a reason. She believed in you, Tom. The council believes in you. The children certainly believe in you. Maybe it's time you believed in yourself. Tom looked through the doorway at Lily and River, hunched over their schoolwork, occasionally whispering to each other. They've changed me, he said quietly. I used to think I was fine alone, that I didn't need anyone, but now... He trailed off. Now you understand what you were missing, Helen finished. Connection, purpose, love. These things make life worth living. Over the next few weeks, Tom made his decision. He went to his logging boss and quit. After 20 years of cutting trees, he was walking away. His boss understood. You found something more important, the old man said, shaking Tom's hand. Good for you. Don't look back. Tom accepted the tribal council's offer. He would create an outdoor education program for youth on the reservation. Start with basic skills, grow it over time. He would have a small salary, enough to live on modestly, and he would continue working closely with Lily and River. The program launched in November. Tom's first class had 12 students, ages 7 to 14. He was nervous that first day, wondering if he could really do this. But the moment they got into the forest, his confidence returned. This was his world. Here he knew exactly what to do. He taught them to build emergency shelters, to identify edible and medicinal plants, to read animal signs, to understand weather patterns. But more than skills, he taught them respect. Respect for nature. Respect for the knowledge of their ancestors. Respect for the land that had sustained their people for thousands of years. Lily and River helped him teach sometimes. They would demonstrate techniques, share what they had learned. Tom could see how proud they were to be his assistants, how their confidence grew with each class. But it wasn't all smooth. There were challenges. Some parents were skeptical of Tom, this white outsider teaching their children. Some teenagers in his classes tested him, questioned his authority. There were days when Tom doubted himself, wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. One particularly difficult day, a teenage boy named James challenged him in front of the whole class. Why should we learn from you? James said rudely. You're not even native. You don't really understand our culture. Tom could have gotten defensive, could have pulled rank as the teacher. Instead, he took a breath and answered honestly. You're right, he said. I'm not native. I didn't grow up with your traditions. I'm still learning about your culture every day. But you know what? These survival skills don't belong to any one group. They belong to humanity. Your ancestors knew them. My ancestors knew them. We all came from people who understood the land. He paused, looking at each student. What I can teach you is practical knowledge. How to survive. How to be strong and capable in nature. The cultural meaning, the spiritual significance that comes from your elders, your families. I'm not trying to replace that. I'm just adding to it. Giving you tools. What you do with those tools, how you connect them to your heritage, that's up to you. James didn't apologize, but he stopped challenging Tom after that. And slowly, grudgingly, he started actually learning. As winter came, Tom started taking his students on longer trips, overnight camping in the snow, learning to build fires in wet conditions, understanding how to stay warm in extreme cold. These were harder lessons, but crucial ones. On one of these winter camps, something happened that changed everything. They were 2 hours into the forest when River, now 7 years old, suddenly stopped walking. His face went pale. "Teacher Tom," he said, his voice strange. "I hear something." Everyone stopped. Tom listened carefully. At first he heard nothing. Then faintly a sound, someone calling for help. Tom's training kicked in immediately. "Everyone stay together. James, you're in charge. Keep the group here. Lily, River, come with me." They moved quickly toward the sound. About a quarter-mile away, they found a hiker, a young man who had fallen and broken his ankle. He was hypothermic, shaking violently. He had been lost for 6 hours. Tom immediately went into rescue mode. He built a quick fire, wrapped the man in emergency blankets, treated his ankle as best he could. But here's what amazed him. Lily and River helped without being asked. They gathered firewood. They knew exactly what kind to get. River found the driest tinder. Lily helped stabilize the man's ankle using techniques she remembered from watching Tom. Tom used his emergency beacon to call for help. While they waited for rescue teams, he kept the hiker warm and stable. The other students had followed quietly and watched everything, learning more in those urgent moments than they could from any planned lesson. When the rescue team arrived and took the hiker to the hospital, the lead paramedic shook Tom's hand. "You saved his life," the paramedic said. "Another hour and he would have died from hypothermia." And these kids, he gestured to Lily and River, they knew exactly what to do. "You're teaching them well." That night back at camp, the students sat around the fire talking excitedly about the rescue. James, the boy who had challenged Tom, spoke up. 2 years had passed since Tom started the outdoor education program. Lily was now 10 years old, River was 9. The program had grown beyond anyone's expectations. Tom now taught over 50 students regularly, had 2 assistant teachers from the tribe, and the program had received recognition from the state education department. But success brought new challenges. It started on a regular Tuesday afternoon. Tom was at Helen and Robert's house helping River with his homework when there was a knock at the door. Helen answered it and came back looking worried. Behind her was a woman in a business suit carrying a briefcase. She had that official look that immediately made Tom nervous. "Hello, I'm Carol Peterson from the State Child Services Department," the woman said. "I'm here to do a routine welfare check on Lily and River." Helen's face tightened. "We weren't told anyone was coming." "It's a surprise inspection," Carol said pleasantly, but there was something cold in her smile. "Standard procedure." The next hour was tense. Carol walked through the house, checking the children's rooms, asking them questions, writing notes constantly. She asked about their school performance, their health, their emotional well-being. The children answered politely but looked scared. Then Carol turned to Tom. "And who are you exactly? You're here quite often from what I understand." "I'm Tom. I teach the children outdoor skills. I'm also a family friend." "Family friend," Carol repeated, writing something down. "How much time do you spend with these children?" "I see them 3 or 4 times a week," Tom said, wondering why this mattered. Carol's eyebrows raised. "That's quite a lot of time for someone who isn't family. Are you aware that there are protocols for non-family members spending excessive time with foster children?" Helen stepped forward. "Tom has been approved by the tribal council. He was specifically requested by the children's grandmother before she passed. Everything is legal and proper." "That may be," Carol said, "but the state has different requirements than tribal councils. I'll need to review all the documentation, and Mr. Tom here will need to undergo a background check and complete state-mandated training for working with foster children." After Carol left, the house was quiet. The children looked upset. Helen looked angry. Tom felt sick to his stomach. "What does this mean?" he asked Helen. It means someone complained, Helen said bitterly. Someone reported that there was an outsider spending too much time with the children. Now the state is getting involved. Who would do that? Tom asked. Helen sighed. There are people on the reservation who never accepted you, who think the children should only be taught by tribal members. This is their way of pushing you out. Tom felt like the ground was shifting under his feet. Everything he had built over 2 years was suddenly at risk. What happens if I don't pass their requirements? Then you wouldn't be allowed to spend time with Lily and River unsupervised, Helen said quietly. At least not officially. That night Tom couldn't sleep. He thought about the children, about how far they had come, about the bond they had formed. The idea of being forced out of their lives was unbearable. The next few weeks were difficult. Tom had to fill out endless paperwork, undergo fingerprinting and background checks, attend training sessions about foster care protocols and mandatory reporting. It was exhausting and humiliating. He felt like he was being treated as a potential threat instead of someone who had dedicated 2 years of his life to helping these children. Meanwhile, Carol Peterson kept coming around. She would show up unannounced, observe Tom teaching the children, ask pointed questions. Tom felt constantly watched, constantly judged. The worst part was seeing how it affected Lily and River. They became anxious again, like they had been right after their grandmother died. They worried that Tom would be taken away from them, that they would lose another important person in their lives. One afternoon, after a particularly stressful visit from Carol, River broke down crying. Why she keep coming? Why she ask so many questions? You're not doing anything bad, Teacher Tom. Tom held the boy while he cried, feeling helpless and angry. This child had already lost his parents and grandmother. Now he was being made to feel like his relationship with Tom was somehow wrong or dangerous. Lily, usually more controlled, was also struggling. She came to Tom one day with her notebook, the one where she recorded all his lessons. I wrote down everything you teach us, she said, her voice small. If they make you go away, we still have this. We won't forget. Tom's heart broke. I'm not going anywhere, Lily, I promise. We'll figure this out. But he wasn't sure if that was a promise he could keep. Then something unexpected happened. The students from Tom's program, the 50 kids he had been teaching, started speaking up. They wrote letters to the tribal council. They told their parents how much the program meant to them. Parents who had been skeptical of Tom at first now defended him strongly. James, the teenager who had challenged Tom that first day, gave a speech at a tribal council meeting. Tom wasn't there, but Helen told him about it later. James said that Tom taught him more than survival skills. Helen recounted. He said Tom taught him that earning respect is more important than demanding it, that admitting when you don't know something is a sign of strength, not weakness, that caring for others is what makes a man truly strong. The tribal council called a special meeting with Carol Peterson and her supervisor. The chairman, William, spoke firmly. This man has been vetted by our community. He has proven himself over 2 years. He has brought honor to himself and to us. The state may have its requirements, and we respect that, but we will not allow baseless suspicion to harm a program that is helping our children. They presented documentation, letters from parents, reports from teachers showing how students in Tom's program had improved in confidence and grades, testimonials from the children themselves. Even the paramedic who had been at the winter rescue wrote a letter explaining how Tom's teaching had potentially saved a man's life. Carol's supervisor, an older man named Gerald, reviewed everything carefully. Then he asked to observe one of Tom's classes personally. Tom was nervous that day. He knew he was being tested, but he decided to just be himself, teach the way he always taught. The class was on fire starting techniques. 20 students, ages 8 to 15, gathered in a clearing. Tom showed them 3 different methods. Matches and fire starter, the easiest, flint and steel, more challenging, and finally, the bow drill method, the hardest but most traditional. Your ancestors survived for thousands of years using methods like this, Tom told the class, not because they were primitive, but because they were smart. They understood materials, they understood friction and heat, they understood patience. He demonstrated the bow drill, creating smoke and then a glowing ember. The students watched in fascination. Now you try, Tom said. And here's the important part. This is hard. Most of you will fail the first time, maybe the second and third time too. But that's okay. Failure is how we learn. Your ancestors didn't give up when things were difficult. They kept trying until they succeeded. Gerald watched as Tom moved through the group, encouraging students, correcting techniques gently, celebrating small victories. He saw how the students responded to Tom, with respect but also with affection, with trust. He saw how Lily and River worked as Tom's helpers, demonstrating techniques, encouraging other students. He saw the pride in their faces when Tom praised them. After the class, Gerald approached Tom. "I've seen enough. I'm going to recommend that all restrictions be lifted. You clearly have a positive relationship with these children." Carol's concerns were unfounded. Tom felt relief wash over him. "Thank you. But I want to ask you something," Gerald continued. "Why do you do this? You could make more money doing other work. This job comes with a lot of responsibility and not much recognition. What keeps you here?" Tom looked at Lily and River, who were showing younger students how to arrange kindling properly. "They keep me here," he said simply. "All of them, but especially those two. They gave me a purpose when I didn't have one. A family when I was alone. I owe them everything," Gerald nodded. "That's what I thought. Real dedication can't be faked. Good luck to you, Tom." When Carol Peterson came for her final visit, her attitude had changed completely. She was professional but no longer suspicious. She completed her paperwork and closed the case, ruling that the children were in good care and that Tom's involvement was beneficial. The day after it was all finalized, Tom took Lily and River to their favorite spot in the forest, a clearing by a stream where wildflowers grew in abundance. "It's over," he told them. "They're not going to make me leave. I can keep teaching you. Keep being part of your lives." River whooped and jumped up and down. Lily, more reserved as always, simply hugged Tom tightly. "I knew you wouldn't leave us," she whispered. "I knew you wouldn't." But Tom had been scared he might have to. The experience had shown him how fragile their situation was. He wasn't legally the children's guardian. He had no official rights. If the state had decided he was a problem, he could have been removed from their lives with no way to fight it. That night, lying in bed, Tom thought about the future. Lily and River were still young. What would happen as they grew older? What if they needed him in ways he couldn't help, because he had no legal authority? What if something happened to Helen and Robert? Tom sat across from Helen and Robert at their kitchen table. His hands were shaking slightly as he held his coffee cup. He had rehearsed what he wanted to say 100 times, but now that the moment was here, the words felt stuck in his throat. "You looked nervous," Helen observed with her usual directness. "Just say what you came to say." Tom took a deep breath. "I want to adopt Lily and River. Officially. Legally. I want to become their father." The silence that followed felt endless. Robert and Helen looked at each other, communicating in that wordless way that long-married couples do. Finally, Helen spoke. "You understand what you're asking? Adoption is permanent. Forever. These children would be your responsibility until they're adults. And beyond, really. Family doesn't end when kids turn 18. "I know," Tom said. "I've thought about nothing else for weeks. I know it's crazy. I'm a single man. I'm not Native American. I have no experience raising children. There are probably 100 reasons why this is a bad idea." "But," Robert prompted. "But I love them," Tom said simply. "They're already my family in every way that matters. I just want to make it official. I want them to have stability, to know that someone is permanently committed to them, that they won't be shuffled around if something happens to you two, no offense." "None taken," Helen said. "Robert and I aren't young. We've worried about what would happen to the children if something happened to us. The tribal foster system would take them, but like you said, they'd be shuffled around. They deserve better." "There's something else," Tom continued. "If I adopt them, they would still be part of the tribe. They would still live here on the reservation, still be part of this community. I would move here, get a place nearby. Nothing about their cultural identity would change. I would just be their legal parent." Robert leaned forward. "Have you thought about how hard this will be? Raising children alone? Especially children who have experienced trauma?" "Every day is hard," Tom admitted. "But it's also the best thing I've ever done. Being in their lives, watching them grow, teaching them, being there when they need me. It's given my life meaning. I can't imagine going back to how things were before." Helen studied him for a long moment. "You've changed so much from the man who stumbled onto those children in the forest. You know that?" Tom smiled slightly. "They changed me. For the better. All right, Helen said decisively. We support this. But there are others you need to convince. The tribal council, the state, and most importantly, Lily and River themselves. You need to ask them if this is what they want. That conversation with the tribal council was one of the hardest things Tom had ever done. Some members were supportive immediately. Others were skeptical. There were long discussions about precedent, about tribal sovereignty, about whether a non-native person should have custody of tribal children. William, the chairman, finally spoke. This is unusual. Very unusual. But everything about this situation has been unusual from the beginning. The question is, what is best for these specific children? Not what's usually done, but what do Lily and River need? Ruth, the elder who had supported Tom from the beginning, added her voice. These children have already lost too much. Tom has been the one constant in their lives besides Helen and Robert. He has learned our language, participated in our ceremonies, taught our children with respect for our ways. Is he native? No, but he honors us. That counts for something. After hours of discussion, the council voted. It was close, but they approved Tom's petition to adopt. With conditions. He would have to move to the reservation. The children would continue their cultural education with tribal elders. Tom would complete parenting classes. And most importantly, the children themselves would have to agree. The hardest part was still ahead, talking to Lily and River. Tom took them to their favorite spot by the waterfall. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon, the kind of perfect day that made you believe good things could happen. They sat on the rocks watching the water tumble over the falls, creating rainbows in the mist. I need to ask you both something important, Tom began. His heart was pounding so hard he thought they might hear it. What is it, Teacher Tom? Lily asked. At 10 years old, she was becoming more aware of adult complexities. She could sense when something serious was happening. You know how much I care about you both, right? How you're like family to me? Yes, River said simply. You are family. You always come when you say you will. You don't leave us. Tom felt his throat tighten. What if we could make it official? What if instead of just being your teacher and friend, I could be your dad? Would you want that? Lily's eyes went wide. You want to adopt us? Like be our real dad? If you want me to, Tom said carefully. You would still keep your last name. You would still be part of your tribe. You would still live here with your people. I would just be your legal father. The person responsible for taking care of you. The person you could count on no matter what. River looked confused. But we already count on you. I know, Tom said. But this would mean I couldn't be taken away. No matter what happened, I would always be your dad. Always have the right to be in your life. Always be there to take care of you. Lily was quiet for a long time, staring at the waterfall. Tom waited, his heart in his throat. Finally, she turned to him. Would we call you Dad? She asked softly. You could call me whatever feels right to you, Tom said. Dad, father, still teacher Tom, if that's what you're comfortable with. The label doesn't matter as much as the commitment. Our real parents died, Lily said, her voice trembling. Then grandmother died. Everyone we love goes away. Tom understood her fear. I can't promise I'll live forever, he said honestly. Nobody can promise that. But I can promise I will never choose to leave you, never abandon you, never stop being your dad. For as long as I'm alive, you've already lost too many people. I'm not going anywhere by choice. River suddenly threw his arms around Tom. Yes, I want you to be our dad. I want it so much. Lily was crying now, but smiling too. Me too, I want it too. But Teacher Tom, yes? Can we still call you Teacher Tom sometimes? Because you're our teacher too. You're both. Tom pulled both children into a hug, his own eyes wet with tears. You can call me whatever you want, as long as I get to be your dad. The adoption process took 6 months. There was paperwork, home studies, interviews, court hearings. Tom sold his old house and bought a small home on the reservation, just 2 streets away from Helen and Robert. The tribal community helped him fix it up, paint it, make it suitable for children. Lily and River picked out their own rooms. They decorated them with posters and drawings, mixed with traditional tribal art. They moved in gradually, spending nights there on weekends at first, then more frequently, until it truly became home. Tom had to learn so many new things. How to pack school lunches, how to help with homework in subjects he barely remembered, how to braid Lily's hair for special ceremonies, how to talk to teachers and doctors and coaches, How to set bedtime routines and enforce consequences while still being supportive. It was exhausting. Some days he wondered what he had gotten himself into. But then River would laugh at something silly, or Lily would show him a drawing she made of their family, 3 figures holding hands under trees. And Tom would remember why he was doing this. The outdoor education program continued to grow. Tom now had 3 assistant teachers, all tribal members he had trained himself. The program was teaching over 100 students and had become a model that other reservations were interested in replicating. But Tom's focus had shifted. His students were still important, but Lily and River came first now. Always. He arranged his teaching schedule around their school events. He was at every parent-teacher conference, every school play, every sports game. He was learning what it meant to be a parent, one day at a time. On the day the adoption was finalized, there was a ceremony at the courthouse followed by a celebration at the Tribal Community Center. Everyone came. The Tribal Council, Tom's students and their families, Helen and Robert, Joseph the Ranger, people from town who had heard the story and wanted to show support. The judge, an older woman who had reviewed the case carefully, spoke at the ceremony. This is an unusual adoption, but in my 30 years on the bench I've learned that families come in all forms. What matters is commitment, love, and the best interest of the children. And in this case, all 3 elements are clearly present. She looked at Lily and River, who were dressed in traditional tribal clothing for the ceremony. Do you 2 understand what's happening today? That Tom will become your legal father? Yes, Lily said clearly. He's going to be our dad forever. And is this what you want? Yes. Both children said together, and everyone in the courtroom laughed. The judge signed the papers. Just like that, Tom officially became a father. The single lumberjack who had once spent days alone in the forest now had 2 children who called him Dad. At the celebration that followed, there were speeches and traditional dances. Tom was given a blanket with designs that represented his journey with the children. Elders blessed the new family. Children from his classes performed songs they had learned. But the moment Tom would remember forever came later, when the formal events were over. Lily and River were playing with other kids, running around the community center with boundless energy.